Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we will go through. But if there is anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other amazing SEOs on the call in the live audience who share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I personally think that's one of the best things about office hours, not just hearing from the four of us, but everybody contributing. So please continue to do that because it's amazing. Like always, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning.
Hello, morning, and welcome to our 66th episode of SEO Office Hours. And hello, Preeti, Simon, Frank, Umama. Hello, Rob, Walid, Olesi, Lesa, Dan, Isaac, Jordan, Sandeep, Daniel, for joining us today and for joining us, those that are watching us on the recorded version as well. We have a lot of people dialing in from different countries today. I believe we have actually Pakistan, we have India, we've got the UK, Spain. I believe we also have, checking a couple others, Barcelona, of course, yes. I think we have Nigeria as well. But if I haven't mentioned your country, please put it in the chat. I'm really pleased to have our 66 SEO office hours today. As Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull. I run events in my free time called Search London and Search Barcelona. And I'm always very passionate about events. As Mike always asks, what are we excited about? Me, events. And actually, next week we do have Brighton SEO. So Mike and I will not be there. We will not have the show. And then the week after is Easter. So this is our last SEO office hours until April 25th. So I wanted to say a big thank you to our special guests today for joining us on the show. We have Frank and Seb. Thank you for coming on SEO office hours.
Great to be here.
Same. Great to be here.
So welcome, Seb Atkinson, for joining us today. Seb is an accomplished SEO consultant. You have over 13 years of experience in technical SEO, international SEO. You have experience in content strategy as well, and it expands into editorial, e-commerce sites as well, both for B2B and B2C. So very impressive there. You've also partnered with many businesses across personal finance, professional services, and consumer brands. And you're also on the judging panel of the European Search Awards and the UK. That's quite impressive. You're also doing outside of work, your second year of captaining a local hockey team, and you guys won the league last season.
That's right. Yeah, I wanted to do something with the local community, and I picked up hockey again after 5 years. I got this opportunity to lead a team. Yeah, it's just great playing with people of all ages. Hockey's quite different to a lot of sports because you get teenagers, adults, people of all different ages. So it's quite fun. So yeah, we won our league last year and we got promoted. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We just wrapped up the season.
Oh, great. And then also, prior to that, you used to play the drums. So
That's
very
right.
busy.
Yeah, I was in the covers band, but then partly because I took up hockey, I got kicked out. Yeah, people say I've got the drumming style of Dave Grohl and the hairstyle of Phil Collins. So yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Seb. If anybody would all like to connect with Seb, please connect with him. The LinkedIn URLs is in the chat. And hello, Frank. Thank you for joining us today. You're an SEO specialist at Dept in Rotterdam, and you help businesses grow organically. You also love working on those complex technical problems. You also experiment with Python scripts, and you also explore the latest AI tools. You believe in the power of automation to create more impact. We all love automating things. Frank, you're an SEO specialist at Dept in Rotterdam, and you help businesses grow organically. You also love working on those technical problems. I'm sure you like to go down those SEO rabbit holes. You also said that you experiment with Python scripts and also explore the latest AI tools. And you are a firm believer of automation, which is great. We all like to automate loads of tasks. And you're actually speaking at Brighton SEO next week. You're going to be speaking about the power of vector embeddings, and it's going to be on Friday at 3:20 in the Skyline stage. So I will share that. But thank you very much, Frank, for joining us today on the show.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm going to connect with you, ask everyone to connect with you there. And for anyone that is coming to Brighton SEO, as I mentioned, Frank is talking on Friday at 3:20 and the Top Bar Sky Lounge about the power of vector embeddings and how much you can get from that. So looking forward to that. And I want to say hello to a couple more people that joined. John, we have Monsi, we have Ian, Great Dorling, we have Steve as well, and Danny. We have 2 more people coming in from Germany and Switzerland, a few more countries to add to our international SEO office hours. So back to you, Mike, because we've got loads of questions today and we won't have any for another 2 sessions. So we should get through as much as possible.
Yes. Okay, brilliant. Okay, question number 1. Why does Google sometimes choose different canonical versions of my content?
Oh, that's a good question.
Go for it, Seb.
Yes, I've dealt with this recently. Yeah, so this is the thing I've seen from Google. I think it was like a year ago. They had some updated guidance, and this was specifically around syndicated content for publishers. And they basically just said, don't use canonical tags because we might just rank the other pages. If you don't want those pages to appear, then maybe don't use the canonical. Maybe you should just have one version of the page if possible. Or if not, then I think you just need to be comfortable with one of the other pages maybe ranking instead. That's my understanding of it. I don't know if Frank's got a different answer or what you think.
Yeah, the same. The recent case with it as well. And what I really saw there is if you're tricking Google, then it decides to skip you as well. So in this case, there was a redirect back to the canonicalized page, which got back to the redirect. And what we saw that as well, filter pages that were canonicalized as well, and they were set up right, that they got ignored. So yeah, I think that has something to do with it as well. If you're tricking Google, then yeah, they'll just ignore you, which makes sense to me.
Joe, do you have any thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts, but we have the "it depends" comment coming in, so quite nice there. But no, some very good answers from our guests.
I think like rel canonical is just one of those indicators that you can put in place. It doesn't mean it's definitely going to pass over to where you're pointing to. So I think I've come across this a few times. And usually if, say, for instance, the URL that Google's choosing over yours might have been the original one where it has some sort of history or some sort of authority, and therefore it makes sense that that one works. At least what I would say in this situation is at least they're choosing your website over another, unless it's a really big problem in terms of it, your users getting lost. I wouldn't be too worried about it personally. Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
Yeah, we do have a couple more comments. Mom was talking about if another page with similar content has a stronger backlink profile or perhaps better overall, maybe they've optimized their pages better, Google might choose that page as a canonical. We also have a comment here saying that it's one out of a bunch of canonicalization factors. It's just basically everything needs to be aligned. We also have another comment saying it's a guidance rather than a rule. And a nice point from Rob. You can also reverse the question and ask why Google should choose your canonical version. And he's saying as well that it is a guide, not an instruction. Interesting.
Yeah, I think the guidance, that makes a lot of sense. If it's like very important, you should choose a redirect or something else to do it. You leave the decision to make for Google. So that kind of makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point about controlling it. What can you do to control it? What can you do to influence it? And probably the canonical is more influencing rather than controlling.
Yeah, I've also seen this happen on e-commerce sites where they've had canonicals pointing to, say, category pages from product pages, but actually the product pages have more information on them and answer, say, more specific queries. Usually when I come across this problem, I can see that it makes sense why Google would pick the one that it is, even though they're trying to control, as in the client's trying to control the website. Anything else, Joe, before we jump on to the next question?
Actually, we've got a lot of comments for this one. Just talking about issues like crawl errors or mobile usability might also lead Google to prefer the alternate version. Zach was saying that he's been experiencing an automatic canonical from his content in Korean to his content in Japanese, despite that the content is different and the countries actually didn't in the past like each other. And as the content is different and it's in different languages, the slug is similar since the topic is similar. So that's quite interesting that you have noticed that, Isaac. And Simon has also said, it depends on the query and what Google thinks is the best answer. It looks at all the signals it has, including links. And Monty has also said that it tends to happen to her as well. So yeah, it's quite a lot of school for thought there. Thanks everyone for your comments.
Okay, great. Next question. I'm asking this one on behalf of a friend, and I think you'll work out who that is in a moment. So if they were to design a webinar series for SEOs, like all of us, and around search and AI, what are the hot topics in AI and search at the moment that you would like to know more about? Who would like to kick off?
Yeah, for me personally, I love experience the different models because sometimes you just see a certain model is just better at specific tasks. So that's quite an interesting one. But in general, using it more in bulk, trying to create agents, that I think is really interesting because it feels like the future as well. Because yeah, automating one thing, that's quite cool. But if you can do it in bulk and yeah, you can do it really connecting things to each other, I think that for me personally, that would be the best.
I think the agent side of things is really interesting. And I recently saw, I think it was Amazon, they've just introduced this buy for me agentic product where it will actually go out to other websites and buy products for you. I don't know if it's actually launched yet, but that's really interesting. And it's something that's new to me. Like, what are these different things that can be done with agents? And for SEO, how could that help automate processes and make some of the, I guess, less value add things easier to do, quicker to do, that sort of thing. So that's something that really interests me.
Joe, any thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. I would actually want to maybe kick off with something a little bit broad so that people can get started with this because it's the new series. So I was thinking about how to get started in AI or how to integrate AI into your SEO strategy.
Great. Yeah, I was thinking about this as well when I saw the question. And I think it would be really cool to have a webinar series around things I wouldn't necessarily know. So for instance, there's lots of stuff on how to use ChatGPT or how to create custom GPTs and stuff like that. But I think finding out, for instance, like stories about how people are using AI in interesting ways could be quite good. I remember I went to a talk at Brighton last year by somebody from Holiday Extras, and they were integrating AI into their business in so many ways. And I just thought it was so fascinating. So yeah, maybe that. And then whether there are sort of new features or just tools that I wouldn't know about, I think that would be great rather than the same old ones that we're talking about. Joe, did you want to share a link with anybody?
Oh, yes, I did. So I'm creating
big reveal. The friend is Joe.
Yeah, I'm creating a poll. It's very broad, though, of course, because you can only do so much on LinkedIn. And it's about what are the areas of AI you want to learn more about in the coming months, not specifically for the start of this webinar series, but it's some broad topics, but there's also the option of 4 other. So you can always add something else. And we just have 3 days left, and we've got 42 votes so far. So thank you very much, Mike.
No worries.
Thanks for taking part.
Okay, next question. What are everybody's thoughts on PPCing on your own brand terms? Who would like to kick off?
I can kill with this one.
Well
It's
said.
something I used to deal with a lot with clients because on one side, it's like defending your brand against other businesses bidding for you, or it's giving Google money when you probably would have got the click anyway, because it's on brand terms we're talking about. So there's probably a reason they're searching for you because they probably want to get to your website. So I'd probably consider that. And maybe it's something to test. Maybe you'd run it for a trial period without bidding on your brand name, see what happens with your organic clicks. How does that affect cost per conversion or revenue metrics? And then maybe turn on brand bidding and see how that changes, and maybe factoring in your PPC traffic and, if you can, the branded organic traffic, and just see what it does to the cost per lead. And I guess you can also just look at, is there anyone else bidding on the brand name? Like, who else goes up? Do people actually click on it? So you can use your metrics to figure that out. And then I think you get a good idea from that on, like, is it worth actually paying to get people to click onto your website, or would they have just done it anyway? And in some industries, I see it's very common. I was looking at, I think it was like Asana and Teamwork and some of those other project management tools, and they all seem to just bid on each other. So in some industries, it's probably more important than others. So that's another thing, is definitely you have to think about the industry you're in.
Right. Frank, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I agree. And for me, personal, I work at the agency, and what I saw recently, or with former clients as well, is that it's important to talk about this with the client as well, because sometimes clients, they work in Google Analytics as well, and they see the conversions, they're moving more to the paid search. So it's important that they know as well what will change. Of course, non-branded and branded conversions should be a different metric, but not all clients look at it that way. But for Russia, I totally agree. If somebody is bidding on your brand name, it does makes a lot of sense to start doing that as well. Yeah, for if you rank, you're probably going to rank first on your brand name anyway. And if there isn't any competition, yeah, my personal feeling would be not to advertise on those keywords. But obviously, if there's competitors, yeah, then it's a no-brainer.
Great. Joe, do you have any thoughts?
I was reading also the comments. For me, I think that you should just monitor. It depends. I guess it depends on your budget. But if someone's going to be bidding, if you know that someone is already bidding on your brand terms, then yes, I would do that. But be specific products. We have some comments also from our audience. Jordan is saying that he sees the value of it, but personally reporting on ad performance, it should be split into brand and non-branded terms when you're speaking to your clients or internal stakeholders. Simon's saying you should at least be monitoring these brand terms to see if your competition is evading or using your brand. So yeah, if they're bidding on it, then I would recommend. But again, this is depends, of course, on your budget that you have. A couple of the comments, like Isaac said, I believe the best way is to see what brand queries the brand queries the competitors are using and what are not. He's seeing a lot of biddings in queries with no competition, with no advertising competition. So you can use a third-party tool as well to see who's bidding on your terms as well. But for me, if you have the budget and there's someone bidding on your terms, yes, I would do that for paid search for certain key campaigns so that they're not getting your traffic. I've seen actually a lot of people bid on your brand terms if you're using affiliates. So you could always speak to your affiliate company as well, or your affiliate agency. Over to you, Mike. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just agree with everyone, really. It depends if others are bidding on your brand terms. I think the only other things I could add is if you do start bidding on your brand terms and you don't currently, make sure you make a note of that, because obviously you might see a drop in organic traffic, or it's quite likely you will. And also those kind of probably conversions from an organic perspective as well, because if somebody's searching for you, they know who you are already, so they're probably more likely to buy from you unless they're already a customer. And then the only other reason I could think of is maybe you don't rank for your brand terms or rank in those top positions. Maybe it's one of those kind of generic names, and that could be a reason why you might do it. But yeah, if no one's bidding and you're already sitting in those top positions, I would be more tempted to try and use that budget towards either more content or potentially trying to bid on terms that gets you in front of people that wouldn't already know who you are. Yeah, it depends is basically the answer from me. Joe, do we have anything in the chat from people, or should we jump straight to the next question?
I just say anything else? Yeah, actually, Louise had a question. What tools do you recommend to see who is bidding on the brand terms? Yeah, that's a good one. I was actually saying that overall, for the tools that you can see, like companies that are using paid search, and then you can see the paid search traffic, there's a bunch of different SEO tools out there. But in terms of bidding on the brand terms, that one I'd like to pass over to who has been using PPC more recently.
Not me, unfortunately. I'm a little bit out of the loop on PPC tools, so I don't know if Frank knows.
Honestly, I'm trying to stay away from the PPC as much as possible.
That's probably influenced our answers, I reckon.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I've used SpyFew, and Ahrefs has like a paid section as well within the tool that you can, most of those kind of tools do. So yeah, I would refer to those if I was looking to see who's bidding on certain terms and what their ads look like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point on that one. And also SEMrush does have an area in their tool, and you can see, if you add your website, you can see what they're doing in terms of paid search as well. Just another comment here. Rob just saying, depends how close your brand is into what you sell. If your brand has something like Purple Monkey or something unique, then you probably need PPC less, as opposed to if it was a bit of a more of a generic term, like a t-shirt shop, and you sell t-shirts, then of course you'd have to bid on that. So yeah, try and get some, if we can have a bit more context for some of these other questions, then we can always help you even further. But yeah, it's great answers. Thanks everyone. We've already done 3 questions, and I want to just say thank you everyone to joining us for our 66th episode. Thanks everyone for being a regular attendee. We've got 27 of us on the call today, and we're dialing in from 6 different countries. So very international SEO office hours. For those that are watching us, the recording, please feel free to join us. We're now 1 hour difference if you're not on daylight saving. It is 9:30 a.m. British summertime. And as everyone is enjoying the show, please feel free to click a like on the YouTube video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we have got a few more subscribers. We haven't pushed it, but it's going really well. And you can also see, obviously, the series and come back to the Good Signals SEO Office Hours page to review the previous episodes as well. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Joe. That was amazing. Okay, next question. I manage a large SEO team, and something I hear a lot is that they want to be involved more in the bigger picture. So strategy, decision-making, and idea generation. Nobody wants that more than me. But when we get together for brainstorms or I ask for input, I'm often met with silence or ideas that I feel are recycled or uninspired. I'd love some advice on how to get them thinking more creatively and contributing original ideas so that I can lean on my team more. Who would like to kick off on this one?
Yeah, good question. Because I think I've been on the other side as well, not being in a management function, but yeah, asked to think about strategy a little bit more. And what helped me a lot was to get the boundaries. What are we searching for? What kind of ideas? Because I'm going to be full of ideas, but when you're talking to somebody, let's say in the management or your team lead, you don't want to make a fool out of yourself. So it's as well important that you get that feeling, get the boundaries, like, hey, what are we actually searching for? And what helped me a lot as well to really get some kind of cases. If you get an example, like they used to do it on this way, that can inspire you to think about possible input as well. So I don't know, Seb, maybe you got on the other side.
Yeah, no, I think those are really good points. My advice, I think, would be thinking about the personalities on your team. So trying to drill down into like, okay, why are they not coming up with things that are creative, and why they're not creative? Is that just your opinion? Or thinking about how do these people on the team, how do they like to work? So some people definitely can go into a brainstorming session and then just come up with ideas straight away. But from my point of view, I'm not very good at that. I need to have a bit of solo time to really think about it. I need to gather my thoughts, think about that independently. I can write them down, and then I'd come to a meeting, and then I'd be able to share those things. And it might be that there's a mix of people on the team. So some might be good at just coming up with ideas off the cuff. Some might need a bit of solo time to think about it. My advice would be trying to consider those different points of view, maybe give people a heads up of, okay, this is what we're going to do. Give them the time to think about it. Give them those ideas. Frank, I think that's a great point of the boundaries. So yes, set a goal, because if it's just broad, like come up with some ideas, make them creative. It's just so vague. It's so difficult for people to know where they're going. And if you could just be stuck there, sitting there thinking about different ideas, but actually you have no idea if it's achieving the goal that the manager's asked for. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Amazing. Joe, do you have any?
Yes, some good tips there. So what I would say, if you are able to get everyone together, that's great. Then what I would say is everyone goes into a room, and what you do is you write down something on a piece of paper, like like idea 1, and then you pass that around, you close that, and then you pass it to someone else, and then they write the other one, idea 2, 3, and so on. And then you don't put your name down, and then what you do afterwards is you all discuss this in person if you're in that room all together, and then nobody's idea is stupid because nobody has written down, nobody feels that they can't because it's autonomous. If you're online there, you're not in person, then what I suggest is someone, so the person that's asking this, they create the Google Doc. And what they do is they ask each person to write down their idea on a separate page or on a separate tab, right? So that you can't see what the other person has done. So maybe Google Sheets might work better. And then Google Sheets, you could actually say what the idea was and maybe an idea of how you would execute it and how it achieves the goals. So the person that has delivered this piece of work, this idea, wants to do the brainstorm, they should say, please give me some ideas of how we can deliver X, Y, and Z within 3 months, within 6 months. Be very specific. And then it helps people to focus. And yes, give them time. People do not like to be rushed. If you have rushed, you have no time to think. So give them the time. You can give them, like, I would say it's always nice to give someone at least a couple of days. If it's on a Friday, you need it by Monday, okay, just say, let me know by the end of Monday. And then if they want, they can think about it on Saturday and Sunday. But do not rush people, because they will feel pressured, and do not penalize them or reprimand them if they come up with an idea that you don't like because you haven't been specific with your brief. That's all. Thanks.
I think a no fear culture is just so important as well.
Exactly.
Like, why are people not coming forward? Because if they think they're going to get shot down, that's not a great working environment, especially for creativity.
Yeah, fear is a definite one for stopping autonomy and for stopping creativity. So managers need to allow people to do the work that they've asked them to do without them fearing they're going to be reprimanded or belittled or nitpicked. So it's really important that culture fosters the creativity environment.
Amazing advice. I really liked what Seb said about preparing, and I think having that time to give people a heads up about the challenge that you're trying to solve, and give them a morning, give them a few hours to go and do some research, and then come to the meeting with ideas, as opposed to in that moment. I think there's nothing worse than somebody going, give me however many ideas on how to do this. So yeah, I would do that. And I think the other thing is, from past experience, making sure that you've got the right people in the room, and you're not asking, say, new grads or somebody that's been in the job for a year to come up with an entire SEO strategy or something like that. Like, obviously those people can contribute, but just it set them up to succeed, not to fail. So yeah, I think if you're trying to encourage ideas, I've had many over the years, I've had many sort of quite young teams where train them up from grads, for example, and to encourage this sort of thing, I've done stuff like weekly meetings where we've talked about current issues in marketing or SEO or digital marketing, where everybody gets used to doing some research and then coming to a meeting where they're sharing sort of things that they found out that they didn't know of before, and chances are other people in the room didn't. And then what we would do is we would debate whether that's a current issue or not. And I think that's a really good way of encouraging that. And another thing we used to do was we'd pick an industry, and I would give different grads a company, and they'd go and do some research in terms of their kind of milestones to growth, and then would share how different companies have grown in different ways. And that was quite a good way of getting people used to sharing ideas publicly, because I think that in most cases people have ideas. I think it's just building up that confidence if it's a young team. And if the person that's asked this question, if you're a new manager, Paddy Mugan has a really good email called The New Leader, and maybe it's worth signing up to that because he's got some really good tips. He used to mentor me years ago, so he's amazing. So I can definitely recommend his stuff, and he's grown companies and so on. Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
Yeah, we do. We have quite a lot, actually. So I wanted to share some of that. Isaac's saying there's always a big challenge from leads. So he'd suggest that person picks the areas where you need more help and creativity, and then plan this ahead, and then you brainstorm. So you could use Figma or Miro, but you also need to set those rules so that people know what to expect, but empower people to think big and that no ideas are bad. You can then ask people to vote for what they like the best. And this helps to create an environment where people can feel happy, free to bring ideas to the table. Good points, Isaac. And Preeti said that when she was in-house, they really wanted to contribute to the overall strategy and do bigger and better things. But unfortunately, every time they pitched, the team lead used to just shut them down, saying that they don't have the resources. So they stopped pitching. So that's a way of not doing it. So if you do want ideas, allow people to do that and grow and empower them. Simon has said that he's come up with a joke. Simon?
Very funny, Simon. All your comments.
But I'll read this one out. Real creativity is not on consistently. This is true. You can't just turn it on like a tap. And that frustrates many of the executive team or senior management team. What you do is you need to create that environment to nurture people, have them to grow, and then take the wins when it happens. Karolos is talking about understand the reason why they want to contribute to the bigger picture in order to handle it properly. Do they want to learn more about different key things or about everything? Yeah, just one other point. Yeah, you might need to manage that out on the recruitment and interview stage. So of course, this is really if someone is bringing people in. So make sure that you have the skills also in-house, because Rob also mentioned that technical skills are more easily to teach, but creativity, no. So see within your team. But if you have the team already there, I'd recommend some of the things that Zach has said. And as Simon says, it doesn't just get turned on like a tap. You need to have the time. And when you add pressure to someone, they don't have the time to be creative. They can get blocked. So lots of good ideas there. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I was just going to add, actually, one thing you could do is take yourself out of the equation, put people in a room, and if you're the one that is always shutting down ideas, or maybe you don't want to admit that, but maybe if you are that person, if you set up the brief and then just leave people to it and then go and join them an hour and a half later and see how they're getting on, that could be a good way.
I think that's a great idea, because if you're a leader in the room, then you have that authority. And if people are looking to you, and it might be that the manager who's asked this is someone who's quite assertive, and maybe the team members struggle to navigate that. So yeah, as long as they've got a direction, they can go away, then they're all at the same level, they can work together. And then if that takes away that fear, if that exists, then that feels like a great way to get started.
Whenever you go to a CRO conference, people are always talking about hippos. It's meant to stand for like the highest paid person in the room or something like that. But usually what they say goes. And yeah, so I think getting yourself out of the way is a good idea. Okay, next question. Or is there anything else, Joe?
No. Oh, one more. Let me just check. No, just that you had a great idea, Michael.
Hey! Okay, cool. Next question. A news website redesigned its UI and organic traffic dropped significantly in a week. They discovered that the URL structure changed without 301 redirects, and the new site removed some internal linking, reducing link equity. This caused JavaScript-heavy navigation, preventing Google from crawling deep pages. So please, how do you redesign a website while preserving SEO? And how should server-side rendering be used for better crawlability?
I love this question. There's lots to unpack, I think. I've done quite a lot of migrations in my time, especially agency side. I think there's a few things. So first of all, what's the easiest way to launch a website without tanking your traffic? Probably don't change too much. Taking away internal links, that's probably a bad idea. Not doing 301s, that's a bad idea as well. So yeah, having someone on board who can steer that and make sure it's part of the plan. So yeah, the SEO is involved before. It's so funny when you get like a lead come through and it's like, we've just launched a new website and we need SEO support. That probably should have happened several weeks or at least months before when you're speccing it out. So the example there about the JavaScript navigation, that's probably something that needs to be in the planning stage. Talking to developers, how are you going to handle navigation? What technology are you using? You can get ahead of that. And I think the question answered the question about server-side rendering. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll leave it there. I don't know, Frank, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very important in a migration that you're, as an SEO are involved way before the launch. So yeah, when it's week after, that's going to be a problem. I think what's important at that point is just to check where the internal links are. Maybe with the Wayback Machine or with a backup, you can see where those were and you can restore them maybe. That would be nice. And as well, the redirects afterwards still to implement those. But yeah, this is probably a pretty worst case scenario if it's already weeks after. I hope this is not a example of something that actually happened. Happened a lot, so yeah, it could be.
So yeah, well, thanks everyone. Great advice there. Simon also said to bring in the SEO before you get to start the project, but in this case, they get everything they deserved. The next question. Simon, that's not very helpful. John saying that get someone in to help. This is JavaScript site and migration without understanding JavaScript that well. And yeah, it's going to be very hard. So you can ask for help for this. Simon also mentioned that he works with developers to check their initial designs and build for technical issues so it doesn't bite them when it launches. Planning is key, but if it's already happened, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because a website can never be technical worse than it was before. So if you can be early in that stage, then you can prevent that. And you're not fully confident that everything's going to be all right, but yeah, the chances are higher.
I'd probably also be asking, like, why are you doing the redesign? What's the driver? I've worked with so many clients in the past who just, a new marketing manager comes in, they like different colors to the old manager. They changed the design, but are there any metrics behind it? So I guess that's maybe something that SEOs can bring to the table and help the company like think about the business strategy and going beyond just like, okay, we like different colors. And like, why are you redesigning it? Is it for UX reasons? Is there something wrong with the old design? So yeah, I think there's lots of questions to have up front about what's the motive for a website redesign, and think about the content strategy as well. So I think some redesigns, people get crazy ideas about, okay, we're going to move these pages, we're going to delete these pages and create some new ones. We're going to combine 3 pages into one, but we haven't thought about what customers really want. Like, looking at your data is so important to know how people are using your website before you make those decisions.
Good answers. Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. I always, with website redesigns, it's one of those things that often people want to make a huge change or many changes at once. And personally, I'm a fan of trying to make changes over time. And the thing I find a bit odd about website redesigns when they do that is I feel like you've got this website in place at the moment where you know how people behave, you know what the conversion rates are, you have all this information. You could just make small changes. So for instance, if the new manager does want to change the colors or something like that, you can make those changes without needing to also change the CMS, without also needing to change all the URLs. And my personal preference is to go down the sort of A/B testing route to see what's better for your users, as opposed to just ripping the band-aid off, as they say, or the plaster off. Yeah, I think you should always be improving your website and just naturally doing that over time. But if you've got a new designer, for example, that wants to put their stamp on it, there are certain parts of the website that it doesn't make a huge difference on. And then there are certain pages or certain sections that it really does. And the sooner, like people have said, the sooner you can get an SEO involved, the better. But yeah, I would just do it over time and use A/B testing tools and potentially SEO A/B testing tools as well to see if you're making changes across sort of certain category pages or something, or templates, to basically try and measure the impact. But yeah, whenever I'm involved in a project, the sooner we can make some of the changes, the better. Even if you are changing tech stack, for example, if you know you're going to be changing some URLs, I would be tempted to start changing some of those beforehand and just seeing the impact there, rather than, like I said, doing everything all at once and just hoping for the best. I'm not a big fan of that. No, it's too stressful. Do we have anything else in the chat, Joe, before we jump on to the next question?
A good point from Simon, that redesigning a site can be like changing your brand. So I'd expect a new marketing manager to think of the two with the same care.
Yeah. And also, if you've got a new head of marketing or something that's come in and wants to make these changes, if you're the SEO, I would do whatever you can to protect the parts that really matter and fight back and challenge. And you've got things like analytics and Search Console to put business cases together and put data behind why to do something or why not to do something. And hopefully you've got reasons for doing what you've done so far. Maybe try and walk them through the different stories that you've gone through, or the narrative. I just read the comment, Joe.
When the new boss introduces tariffs on the old site.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, their first 100 days, trying to get as much done as possible on the job.
Yeah.
And upsetting everybody. Okay, next
Some
question.
people are really good at that.
Yeah. Does anybody else run into this? The client takes ages to send over content, so the whole project keeps getting put on hold. I'm assuming they want some advice on what to do if you're in that situation. Does this happen to any of you guys?
Yeah, this happens, I think, every project. This is a very common problem. Yeah, I think the classic answer is just remind them, tell them why it's important. But yeah, most of the time you'll have already done that. So yeah, I've been struggling with this quite a lot. A little bit of how to say it. I'm not sure if I should advise it, but what I sometimes would do to clients is blame myself for it. And then they will have this kind of guilt feeling, because obviously it wasn't really my fault that they're not sharing their stuff. So that helps sometimes for them to actually start working, or at least to explain why it's not working, why they're not generating what they should. But yeah, I think, this is a very big problem. I think in every project this happens. What do you think, Seb? Thank you.
Yeah, all the time. It's interesting because I think the contact that you have, like your point of contact, might not be the person who's signing off a lot of these things, and maybe they're sending it through to someone else. Maybe they're just really busy. I guess some small things that people can do is maybe try and batch up their requests and put them into like one email when I'm sending things over for approval to people, I'll try and like link directly to like the document every single time I'm sending it across, because you can say, oh, I didn't see your reply, or haven't seen you reply to this email. Then they have to go and dig the email out, then they have to find the document. So I try and make it easy. But it might also be that if there are other people involved and that point of contact has to go and communicate with lots of other people, then maybe there's a conversation around how can you get those other people involved? How can I help? How can I help you make that easier? Can I work with this person? I can copy you in. Can we then use that as a way for me to take the workload off you to simplify things? So that might be another approach to, first of all, understand what's going on, why it's taking so long, and trying to mitigate it.
Yeah, and something else I like to do is when the results are coming in from earlier work, to share that as much as possible so that they see what we're actually doing, it works, and they get motivated to start working on the rest.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Joe, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a very common problem. I would say when we do it from the beginning, you put together, include this sign-off period in your plan. So whatever platform you're using, it can be even as simple as Google Sheets. Say, okay, this is the sign-off, and I give that as a leeway or a space. And then in your client calls, just make sure that you say, like, we need this signed off. If we don't, then we keep delaying the project, and that means that the goals aren't being met. And then in your monthly reports, or maybe you do it every quarter, say, look, we've had 3 project delays, and therefore we haven't been able to meet the goals, which means our traffic has dropped, or which means we haven't got the conversions. If we relate it back to money, then I'm sure that people will be like, oh, I must make sure that I sign off in time. But I would recommend that going forwards, give yourself that sign off period, whether it's 4 working days or something to get sign off. And before the 4 working days is finished, so after the second day, you haven't heard anything, say, please, as per our agreement, please, can you sign this off? Otherwise, we won't be able to do the project when we have initially said. But communication in this case is key.
I think that's such a good idea about it's a client expectations. If it's a client relationship, or if it's like an in-house project, then it's having that timeline and upfront about everyone's expectations, how they're supposed to be getting involved, and those documented timelines and milestones up front. Yeah, great idea.
Right. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan on relying on clients to provide content, just because of this sort of reason. We get lots of writers basically apply on our site to basically write content, and I try and find people who have a background in whatever the client is selling or what their cause is or whatever. So when possible, I try not to rely too much on them. However, one thing that I do is, if I can, I'll go into the office and go and speak to key people and just record them. So I'll go and ask them questions and try and get as much info off them as possible all in one day. And I find face-to-face is much better than just through emails. However, in some cases, some clients really want you to use the people there. And if that's the case, the most effective thing that I've done recently is basically, it took over a month for a sales team to get some content back to me. And so I was so annoying to their head of sales. Their head of sales agreed to take everybody off inquiries until that was done. So if you have something, if you can find a champion that has a bit of power, that sometimes can help. And as you can imagine, everybody got everything to me that morning, just because obviously they wanted to get back on inquiries. But yeah, personally, where I can, I'll go and get the key info from people. But yeah, try and do as much as I can using writers that kind of understand that industry. A lot of the time, I'll get clients to sign stuff off, and actually all they've got to do is read through things rather than needing to write stuff from scratch. I think when it comes to putting content together from scratch, that's where often it takes them a long time, because that's not necessarily what they do day to day. Yeah. Joe, do we have anything else in the comments?
Yeah, we have quite a nice comment, a funny comment from Corellos. It's basically normal, this. But as a last resort, you could make them fear that if they don't send over the content, you won't get that page to rank, or those key landing pages, category pages to rank. So it's basically a wasted opportunity for them. And then the advantage, it's an advantage for the competitors to come in and swipe over their SERP retail space. So yeah, you could use that one. Or Simon said, nobody's mentioned this waterfall versus agile system. Or Wajal, you said, Seb. Quality SEO content takes time to get ready. If it takes time to get ready, perhaps then it might take time to get sign off. So make sure you put that back into your plan. You factor that in.
Yeah, I think something else is also when people have helped you with things like content, making sure you share results with them and you share when it's live and that sort of stuff. They see it, that they see what's happened and why it's important, rather than it just being something on their to-do list. And often, whenever I'm asking clients to do stuff like this, making sure that I go in and explain why it's important and show them some examples of where this has worked before and results to expect doing that stuff. Great. Oh, have we got time for another question? I think we'll jump straight to our regular one, which is, because we usually only have like 10 seconds for that, which is basically, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Seb, what are you most excited about at the moment?
I've been looking at e-commerce, and I was lucky enough to go to Search Central in Zurich, and I saw some of the new schema stuff that's coming out in the future. So to me, it seems like Google's really keen on pushing that, and probably because they think it's useful for searchers. One thing I've noticed in the US is the search results for anything transactional basically seem to resemble an e-commerce category page. It's got like a sidebar with faceted nav. It's got 80% of the page is covered in carousels of different products, like the product grid. I haven't really seen that in the UK yet, so I'm interested to see how is that going to change. And I think it's likely to be a big opportunity, or at least a very big change for retailers. And I think they need to be positioned to take advantage of that. So that's something I'm interested to see, that kind of experience. Is it going to roll out to other countries? Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that really, and see what happens.
Amazing. Frank, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
Yeah, for me, what's most exciting is we're starting to automate more and more of our daily tasks, especially the ones that are boring. So I try to combine SEO more with other things, for example, with the vector embedding, to really automate processes. Been working with the data team here as well a lot. Yeah, talking about AI and see what AI can actually do for us. So that excites me the most. It's a challenge as well, because a lot of people, they will still try and do it the old way. So it's always a battle, but when they see as well, they don't have to do the boring work anymore. A smile on their faces is quite cool to see as well. So yeah, for me, it's really, trying to automate everything. It's not possible for sure to automate everything, but a lot of simple tasks right now, yeah, I don't have to spend any time on that anymore. So that's a good thing.
Amazing. Joe, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
The automation that you said, Frank, but I am always very excited about events. So looking forward to seeing, Frank, your talk on Friday at Brighton SEO. Excited to see some of you at Brighton SEO next week. I'll be there from Wednesday. I think Simon said he'll be at Brighton SEO next week. And also we're also away for Easter. So we'll be back here in 3 weeks on April 25th. So thanks everyone for coming to our session today. So excited about our SEO office hours coming back as well.
Yay, great. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Seb and Frank for joining us as special guests this week. Joe, thank you for being an amazing co-host. Thank you to those who watched live today. Thanks to those who submitted questions. And thank you to those watching afterwards on YouTube. As Joe said, we are, if somebody's only just joining us now, this is going to be a very short office hours. We are back, as Joe said, in a couple of weeks' time. We're having a break for Brighton SEO and the Easter holidays. So I hope you have a lovely few weeks. Hopefully see everybody who's going to be in Brighton. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I also just want to say, Johnson, there's also Search Central Live in Madrid. Anyone, looks like a great event. I don't know if anyone's going to that. I'm sure there's a few, but hopefully you all have a fun time. I'm sure you will. It looks like it'll be a great event on the 9th of April. So enjoy, everyone that's attending that one.
Oh, amazing. Okay, bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.